listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. Welcome to the show. Thank you for tuning in. Our focus, workplace and workforce trends, and we also talk to some leaders of different businesses and industries to get their take on their business and industry, to learn a little bit more about what it is that they do in the hopes that something they say or something they do will trigger each one of us to get a little bit better at what it is that we do. Some of these businesses are just kind of omnipresent, let's say. They're everywhere, and we all have strong opinions about them. Though we may not be qualified to evaluate them, we all feel entitled about our opinion regarding these different businesses. And the one that comes to mind, and the one that is the focus of our work today, or our show today, is the restaurant business. We all go to these places, and we all come away with a strong opinion of whether we liked it or whether we didn't like it. And the small things, for example, that may form a strong opinion on us of whether it was a good or a bad restaurant. These restaurants are teeming with, and I know you know this, people in the front and in the back. We very seldom see what goes on in the back. It was the New Orleans restaurants years ago that opened up the wall between the diners and the food preparers. And we began to glimpse a little bit about the activities that go on in the kitchen that are necessary to get our food to the table. But what we don't know are the personalities back there. And it seems to me, in my experience in restaurants, that the people behind the wall in the kitchen are often very strong personalities. In college, I waited tables to make ends meet, to get myself some spending money. I went to school in New Orleans, and I met many of these strong personalities. None of the famous ones that we know today. I was kind of in the second-tier restaurants that were located near the campus and priced for college students. But I do remember having a chef come at me with a knife in his hand one time because the customer complained about his food. And quite frankly, the customer was very right to complain. It was an awful performance and presentation. I should never have delivered it. But when I confronted the chef about it and told him how embarrassed I was, he came out from behind the line with a knife in his hand and said, "How dare you question my food?" I won't forget that. I won't forget that. He was on a work release program, and I'm not sure he was released much longer after that. Thankfully, the manager came back and solved things before I got sliced to ribbons. But those people behind the wall there in the kitchen, often very strong personalities. And managing these people and controlling them, if you will, keeping them focused can be very difficult. Additionally, finding reliable people. Now, this is a constant theme with the show recently, but finding reliable people who will come to work on time every day, ready to serve the customer, continues to get harder and harder and harder in this economy. And finding quality wait staff must be difficult as well. Let's not overlook the fact that you and I have strong opinions about our food. And I've got kids that think Cheez-Its are the ultimate food product, that there gets no better food than Cheez-Its. Yet these very same children have the ability to go online to Yelp, to TripAdvisor, whatever it may be, and evaluate a restaurant, give them a review based on their experience in the restaurant. Yet these kids think Cheez-Its are the best food in the world. That restaurant then is beholden to any one of us who has a strong opinion about the food. And we can put our review up there, give it 1 star, because we didn't feel that this was just right, etc. The question is it fair? Is it right? Is it, what's it like to be beholden to an uneducated food consumer? And I consider myself this individual. I don't know much about it. I'm not a foodie. Today, we're going to learn about the restaurant business. And we're going to have Chris Rainosek on momentarily. Chris runs Noble South, and I'll give you his bio momentarily. We're not going to talk about his food, his dining experiences. I'm not going to get him on here and let him sell his restaurant, I hope. But I do want to learn about the restaurant business, why 3 out of 5 fail, and what happens when some educated oaf, myself, reviews his restaurant. You're listening to What's Working. We'll be back with Chris Rainosek after these messages.
Coastal Alabama Community College is 3 amazing colleges combined into one incredible institution. And that means we're all together. For more sports, 15 more locations, more friends, more one-on-one time with instructors, way more activities, more courses, a lot more courses, and more success for all of us. Pretty much more of everything. Coastal Alabama Community College is where everyone is. All together! Coastal Alabama Community College. Register today.
Think about how people really see you. The kid at the drive-thru just sees a coffee drinker.
Please pull forward.
Your local barista sees the person who loves a smiley face in their latte.
See you next time.
It's kind of the same way with insurance. Other insurance companies just see a customer, but a State Farm agent sees more. They see you as a neighbor. Your State Farm agent is here to get to know who you really are, so they can help life go right.
Call me, State Farm agent Allison Horner, in Mobile at 666-1616.
You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. We're back, and on the line is Chef Chris Rainosek. Chef Chris opened the Noble South, a market-driven Southern restaurant. Chris, and I want to ask you what that means momentarily. Bringing a true farm-to-table dining experience in downtown Mobile. Folks, if you've not tried the Noble South, and I know this is not supposed to be a full-throated advertisement for them, it's fantastic. I want to talk to Chris, and Chris, we want to talk about the restaurant business. But before we do that, tell us what a market-driven Southern restaurant is, and even before that, hey, welcome to What's Working. Thank you so much for your time and your willingness to be on the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and it's really nice to be here. And per your question, what we see as a market-driven Southern restaurant, I mean, the Southern part is a little bit self-explanatory in that we try and stick within the world of Southern food. Now, how we figure out what that Southern food means to us is driven by the market and what's available seasonally at that particular time, what our local farmers are producing at that time, and what's available in the marketplace, and trying to bring that in. Whether we try not to, go out and have the market, come to us and see what we're going to make by what's there. We really try and pick and choose and see what's, we kind of do it backwards from a lot of places, and that we, try and let the market dictate what we prepare instead of the other way around.
Tell me this, before we get in, I have a number of questions based on what you just said. But of all the businesses, with the fact that, or what I've always heard, 3 out of 5 restaurants fail. And restaurants are full of big personalities, and managing and retaining people is difficult regardless of the business. Yet you willfully jumped into the restaurant business. You went to the Culinary School of the Rockies in Boulder, Colorado. This seems to be your plan all along. Why restaurants?
Well, that's an interesting question. So my background, in school or anything like that, my bachelor's degree is actually in political science. And it was something where when I graduated from school for the University of Alabama, I moved to Colorado, to Boulder specifically. And my first job out of college, I was kind of taking a year off, figuring out what I wanted to do with my life as I started working around in restaurants. And so after I started working in restaurants, I knew that I found out that I was kind of good at it. And there are certain personality traits I had that, lent themselves to being successful in restaurants. I kind of fell in love with the pace of it, the business. But I started off as a front of house guy. So I was kind of a manager and that side of things. And then this culinary school popped up, and they had a great program where I could work learn the cooking part while I was working in the restaurants, the front of house. And my goal was always to kind of own and operate and to learn all the sides of the restaurant. And then, I kind of fell in love a little more, I guess, with the cooking side of things. But the ultimate goal was always to kind of own and operate my own place.
You said you're good at it, and you undoubtedly are. Your resume, which we'll continue to touch on in the show, shows a lot of success there. What are the qualities? What does it take to be good at the restaurant business? Is it primarily a business sense? Is it primarily an ability to cook well, to be a chef? Tell me what it takes to be good at restaurants.
The first thing I remember noticing and having people that I was working with tell me that they saw that I was good at was kind of, restaurants are chaotic, and how to kind of keep your head and be able to make decisions and kind of work within this chaotic thing with things kind of happening all around you. And, for me, that was something that was pointed out and that I recognized early on that I could, kind of be the calm in the middle of the storm and still function and still focus on the task at hand and, still keep the customers happy and kind of, maintain that through all this, craziness is happening around you, all this, busyness and noises and all the other things and customers, employees running around. And so that's always served me well. Now, does that automatically translate to restaurant success? No, of course not. But I think it's definitely a quality that you need to have, just given the kind of day-to-day, if you're busy and things are working, I mean, you have to be able to kind of manage yourself within that chaotic environment.
So it was your ability to stay above the fray, to keep your eye on the prize, if you will, that first got the attention of others around you that suggested you may be good at it.
Right.
How important, and I'm about to ask what I think is a dumb question, how important is the taste of the food versus all the other stuff that I know that goes on in a restaurant?
Well, it all has to balance out, and it's hard to put, because I think when people sit down in a restaurant, obviously the food, how it tastes, how it's presented is going to be what people view as one of the most important thing. But to us, and something now having owned and operated for going on a little over 5 years now, it is really the total picture that sets them up to have a successful meal just when they sit down. That's really kind of the end of the line, if you will, when they sit down and actually taste something. But it all goes into, proper preparation and from everything from, following the health codes to having a staff that's prepared and ready to go, to the service, to how people are greeted when they come in the restaurant. Just the actual tasting of the food is kind of the end, and it needs to be there, and it needs to, be, something that's memorable and something that's consistent. But it's oftentimes that's, closer to the finish line than it is the beginning as far as how we get prepared for a customer to come in.
So there's so much that goes into shaping the customer's experience, the last of which, very important, but the last of which is the actual taste of the food. It reminds me, and I think I've used this example on this show before. I heard a speaker from Disney who had been trained in the Disney way, and he talked about the research that Disney has done on first impressions of customers at their hotels on site. And when they drive up and then come into the lobby, if those two things are positive impressions, you can give them pretty much a doghouse of a room, and they're going to come away and say it was great because of the significance of those first two impressions. Are you suggesting that if the customer comes in and the restaurant looks good, sounds good, is greeted quickly, all that kind of stuff, they're likely going to like the food regardless of the taste?
Well, sure. And I don't want to say regardless of the taste, because that's, obviously something that's very important. However, you're setting yourself up for success when you do all those things and hit all those details. It's just like if you have people walk into a place that they feel comfortable, they feel, welcome, they feel some hospitality and how you're greeted. You're already putting yourself on second base, I feel like. And so that by the time, they get the food, they sit down, have a drink and order the food, that you're already halfway there. And so while it needs to taste great and be consistent, you really set yourself up for success instead of putting yourself behind.
Do you think the foodie world, these people that really have this claim to have a refined taste and they explore and they search people like you out for the farm to table movement and all that, has the foodie world helped the restaurant business, or has it hurt the restaurant business due to their influence amongst other foodies?
I think on the whole it's helped, because it's brought so much more attention to it. And through social media and things like that, you see people, talking about their meals, and there's an open dialogue about their experience in the restaurant. And while there can be a bad side to it, overall, just as far as shining a light on our industry as a whole, I think it's absolutely, given a whole new set of eyes onto things. And it goes not only for the fancier places or your upscale places, but also if you're, a true foodie and you're seeking these things out, it gives such a great light to mom and pop, shops, ethnic foods that maybe wouldn't have gotten that kind of coverage otherwise and aren't going to get it from traditional media. But because people are now seeking it out and they have a voice on, their Instagram page or what have you, it really, really helps those businesses specifically. And so I think overall it's been a good thing, for sure.
Do you get tired of foodies? Do they want to talk to you when you're in the restaurant? Do they want to ask you what they think are refined questions? I get the impression that they're very much like wine enthusiasts who want to talk about the subtleties of the wine and the the wine grower's just rolling his eyes going, if you like it, drink it. I don't want to have to talk about the amount of Sauvignon Blanc that's mixed with the this and the that. Just enjoy it. Do you get tired of these people?
No, not at all. Because I am one of them, in a way. And it's my, when I go out, I try, I'm a very easy customer when I go out places, but yes, I want to talk to whoever I'm having dinner with about what we're tasting and, why we order this and why they made it that way, be it good or bad. And, it's my favorite thing, in the world to talk about, or one of my favorite things in the world to talk about is to, dissect food and look and see what's going on in the bigger picture and go try, funky small places or go to, nice fancy dinners. That love of eating out and kind of sharing a meal with people is, kind of why I do this and what the thing that I fell in love with on both sides, both being able to have that meal as well as, being able to share that and give it to others and give them a good night. So people want to talk about it, and that's great. We are being in Mobile. We are obviously in a much smaller market than some places. So I don't get hit with that a whole lot. I think the Noble South, does maybe cater to that audience a little more than a lot of places in town. But when people do come in and they want to talk about it, we're more than happy to.
I'm on the line with Chef Chris Rainosek. He is the head chef of the Noble South here downtown Mobile. Farm-to-table dining. If you want to get involved, leave us your thoughts or your opinions. Got a question for Chris? Send it to us, and we'll get him back on the phone down the line. That number is 251-260-8100. Again, 251-260-8100. That's also a text line, or you can email me directly. You can contact me at C-A-M, at cammarston.com. And if you got a friend who's coming to town and you want them to hear this show and then you're going to take them to dinner at the Noble South, you can find this podcast at cammarston.com. Across the top of the page is the podcast link. We'll be right back with Chef Chris Rainosek in just 1 minute. Hey, this is Cam Marston. If sales in your business comes from prospecting to create leads that lead to sales, I want to tell you about Sales Up Coach, a cloud-based system created for the next generation of sales professional. There's a big difference between being busy and being effective. And Sales Up Coach helps salespeople who rely on prospecting uncover which of their activities produce the greatest results. Over time, Sales Up Coach's machine learning hones salespeople's schedule to focus only on activities that generate the most bang for the buck. Your sales team interacts with Sales Up Coach on their smartphone, and sales managers can instantly generate reports to see who is on goal and who may need additional support. Go online and take a look at this new and very powerful sales tool. Go to salesupcoach.com/Cam Marston. Watch your sales team's productivity change.
Think about how people really see you. The kid at the drive-thru just sees a coffee drinker.
Please pull forward.
Your local barista sees the person who loves a smiley face in their latte.
See you next time.
It's kind of the same way with insurance. Other insurance companies just see a customer, but a State Farm agent sees more. They see you as a neighbor. Your State Farm agent is here to get to know who you really are, so they can help life go right.
Call me, State Farm agent Allison Horner, in Mobile at 666-1616.
This is Coastal Alabama Community College, where education is key and where there is opportunity in every classroom. We serve 9 counties with one common goal. Here, we come together to create a brighter future. Together, we inspire. Together, we learn. Together, we succeed. This is Coastal Alabama Community College. All together.
We're back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. On the line is Chef Chris Rainosek, head chef of the Noble South. Chris, you've done a number of things around town. You were the executive chef of the Wash House restaurant in Point Clear. We talked about your culinary school of the Rockies in Boulder. I'm looking at your resume. You've been in the food business since you were out of school. How has that changed? How has the food business, particularly the restaurant business, changed in the time since you've started looking at it as a profession?
Well, I think, just the sheer volume, I think, has changed a lot. There's just, so many more restaurants now, so many choices everywhere you go. And I think it used to be, great restaurants were, your New York, Chicago, San Francisco, New Orleans, kind of your classic food towns. And now you can really go to almost any town and find somebody doing something great and someone with a really high level of authenticity and a really high level of skill. And I think that's because, the food world and food culture has grown so much, be it, the TV side of things, like we touched on previously, the social media aspect of things where, just food knowledge is shot from, all over the world, in seconds, as people are eating their meals. I think just, the quality has grown so much overall, and the general interest of the public and the people, being willing to try new things and who really seek out new things, something that 20 years ago, I don't remember, being around as much, certainly not as much as it is now.
Yeah. Yeah. What about Mobile? You talk about the quality of the food has grown. The people are more aware of high quality food. Social media has changed this. Yet you and I live in, and I think you're a native of Mobile like I am. Mobile is not known for its most progressive thinking, regardless of what the topic is. And I'm certain that's probably the way with food as well. Do you feel that this town limits what you're capable of doing, what you're capable of putting on the menu that will be received by the public?
It's hard to say. And Mobile is a tricky town. And I've been, I guess, in restaurants in Mobile now for going on 13 years, I think, since I moved back in 2006. And the downtown area specifically has grown a lot, and it is a little bit more progressive. And I feel like Noble South 5 years ago, when we opened, we were kind of the first of this newer wave of restaurants where there's, been a whole lot of restaurants open in the past 5 years. I think in general, the quality has been much higher. I think they've been a little more forward thinking, and the customers have responded in kind. But as far as being limited, I think for our menu specifically, we do have to think about what Mobile will accept. And I think that's true for any market, I would imagine. But I don't know that we necessarily limit ourselves a whole lot creatively. We just have to balance those things on the menu. We have menu items that are a little bit, to phrase it like this, are for us, and then some that are for the people a little more. And if those things cross over, then great. But there's things where there's an ingredient or a technique that we want to use, that we want to play with, we want to educate ourselves about, that, not everybody walks in the door is going to like, but we like it. We're proud of it. We stand behind it. And we just have to manage it on our end to, where we don't have a whole lot of it around, so it's not going to waste, like some of the other things that we know are going to sell more. Yeah.
What about price points? If I go to San Francisco with my wife and we're going to go to a nice restaurant, I'm going to be prepared to shovel over a pretty good amount. We were in Hawaii not long ago. We went to some nice restaurants there, and we were prepared to pay more. Do you feel like the locals in Mobile say, hey, you're in Mobile, we don't pay this much for food? Are you limited for how much you can charge for a meal?
Well, and that's interesting, because I would say the one thing since we started 5 years ago that I've kind of gave in on was when we started Noble South. I said, look, I don't want to have any entrees over $25, $27, which is on the lower end. But for the quality of product we use, I'm just going to give a smaller portion, and it's going to be a little tighter, maybe a few less ingredients on the plate, but it's going to be a small, tight portion, but it's going to be cheaper and smaller because we wanted people to, kind of bounce around the menu a little bit, try several different things and not just one, giant entree. But as we move forward and listening to kind of the feedback from the customers we got, that became, one of the most common things we heard was that people really wanted a bigger portion on their entrees on that. So we started doing that, and then kind of we, had to bump up the prices to kind of match that. And we really haven't heard anything bad. So I think people want value. And if they look at it as fresh product and, it comes out presented well and the portion size is good, then I don't think they have a problem paying for it. Now, if you get into smaller portions and higher end ingredients, you start to run into a little bit of a pushback there. But again, like I was saying before, you can't have a whole menu like that. Mm-hmm. So we kind of place some of those things here and there, and we have our more traditional size entrees. And it seems like we really found a nice balance where it's working pretty well now.
Tell me about your growers who are providing you with this local food. Who are they? How do you find them? Are they trying to get your attention? I mean, how do you develop a relationship with these people?
Well, it started out really when I got to the wash house, and that's in Baldwin County, obviously, or for those listening out of town, it's about 40 minutes away from downtown Mobile, and that's a little more inside the farming community, and a little bit it's kind of close to the water, and there's a lot more open spaces over there, and so we started going around to try and meet farmers, just knocking on doors and calling people, and had kind of a not really a great response, because there were people who wanted to sell a whole lot more than I was able to buy in a restaurant. They wanted to sell 1,000 pounds of their product to a big, purveyor or something, more so than 20 pounds, a couple times a week to somebody like me. But then all of a sudden I had these guys who were kind of my age and farmers. It was their second job, and they were farmers, and they wanted to learn, and they were looking for chefs to grow up with. They had started their own little small farms and were willing to grow what I asked them to grow, and were trying it out to try and do something for themselves that they enjoyed. And it really started opening my eyes. We had a couple of these guys come through, specifically the local appetite guys, and then also a company called Chasing Fresh that is no longer around. And that kind of gave me the inspiration. We started meeting these people who were my age and were my friends, and we could communicate with and have a dialogue with, where it wasn't just showing up and buying something and shaking hands and walking away. They were down to do whatever they wanted to do. I was open for them to try new things and grow new ingredients and throw it at me, and we knew how to use it or would figure out how to use it. And that's what really became inspiring. So when we, decided to open up the Noble South, we found that we had kind of the infrastructure in place to really make that the basis of the restaurant. And we've, been able to help to it, and since expanded our list of purveyors and people we do from. And we have, specific farms and people who this is all they do, to, one of our, favorite farmers is a guy named George Koulianos, who's a doctor in town who just does it for fun and, brings us the stuff that he grows. So it's been really interesting, and it's really the relationships that you develop going through the years and meeting these people. I talk to them several times a week, most weeks. And, I know their families in a lot of cases. They've been to my house in some cases. I've been to their house. And it's really developed a nice community of people. And it's really what the backbone of the restaurant is.
Tell me, give me a sense of what everything on my plate. If I come to your restaurant, everything on my plate, is it local, or are the entree or the featured items on the plate the local? Can you get everything you need locally?
Well, typically locally, no. Vegetable wise or produce wise, yes. Usually our produce is about a 2-hour radius. We get everything we need outside of like bulk onions, bulk celery, bulk garlic, things that you just kind of have to have for our style of cooking, but that are grown sometimes in season around here, but can't get us through all year round. Outside of that, yes. And then with the protein, seafood is obviously we get everything from the Gulf, unless there's something we want to play, something we just kind of want to play with and bring in. Everything comes out of the Gulf, and we stick to that. And then, meats, we get some locally, and then some we at least try and stick to regionally, and we try and stick to small farms that raise their animals properly and take care of their animals properly. We try and stick to that, make sure that we're using places that, treat their animals ethically as well would be the other thing we look for.
What is the most underrated ingredient or vegetable or protein from our area that you think people listening need to know more about?
Wow. I would say right now, and just because we're in the middle of the season, and this would maybe our region is not so underrated, but certainly nationally, is okra.
Yeah.
And people, always associate it with being in gumbo, which of course it's, awesome. And, stewed okra and tomatoes, a classic Southern side dish, which is awesome and one of my favorite things on the world. But it's so much more versatile than that. It's a great raw vegetable. It can be crunchy in salads. It's an awesome grilled vegetable. So that's always one of my favorites. And kind of when people ask me that question, that's what I say, because the rest of the country, or in so many places in the country, have no clue what okra even is.
I heard a story not long ago about a farmer who was selling it at a farmer's market and had to admit he had no idea what it was, but people buy it, and he doesn't know what they do with it, but they continue to buy it.
Yes.
He was growing it, and he had no clue how it's used.
I had done a radio interview several years ago, right, not long after Noble South opened, And it was with a lady from Mobile, and her name slips my mind, but she had a small radio show in San Francisco or in the Bay Area. And she told the story about, going and bringing all this okra over and trying to show it to all her friends. And they just had no clue. Nobody knew what to do with it. Nobody, knew what it was. They didn't know how to cook it. And that was just fascinating to me, especially for a, part of the world that's known for its produce and all the different varieties that they have access to. So that's always been a favorite to me as, somebody who cooks a lot of Southern food. I wish more people all over the world or all over the country certainly would get on the okra train. Get on the okra train.
I'm sure someone is going to chant that, and they're going to put it on a T-shirt before too long. Yeah. I was in Vancouver. My daughter and I were in Vancouver not long ago, and we went to the farmers market just to look at the different species of fish that they have, the different vegetables. And we walked down the aisles of that farmer market, and there were things that I had never seen before. And I was curious, what do you do with this? How do you eat it? You touch it, and it's hard as a rock, and you think, well, you can't eat it raw, but there's so many different fruits and vegetables, and they look so many different colors and different textures that you got to wonder what people do with it. And I suspect those people would look at me and say, how do you not know how to eat this type of thing? It's what we do. Much like you and I are wondering about people who don't understand okra. I guess it's very regional in that aspect, which is the strength of your restaurant.
And that's true. And for anybody in that situation, I would say, one, support your local markets. That's the best place while you're traveling. That's so awesome to hear you say that, because we're traveling, in the country, you're traveling worldwide, whatever. Go find a market and go wander around for a little while. And it's such an interesting way to learn about the culture of that particular place, be it regional or, all over the world. And that's really, obviously the way that I've focused on learning about the world, but just such a great way to go ask questions, try something you've never tried before. Yeah. It's a wonderful way to explore the world.
Yeah. Tried to get my daughter to have what I told her was a sea spider, which is a lobster. Did not look, she looked at it. Once I said sea spider and I saw her face, I thought, oh, she's not going to eat that. I have ruined this experience for her by calling it a sea spider. But I had one, don't know much about them, thought it was pretty good, a little bit more chewy than I thought it would be. I can see why they like it in butter. I'll take my blue claw crab. Thank you very much going forward. I'm very biased. You're listening to What's Working. I've got Chef Chris Rainosek on the line with the Noble South. Get involved, 251-260-8100 or CAM, C-A-M, at cammarston.com. We'll be right back. And Chris, when we come back, I want to learn about the details of running a restaurant. Not what you serve and all the stuff that's been very interesting, but what it's like to find and retain big personalities in the restaurant business, which has been my experience. We'll be right back. Hey, this is Cam Marston. If sales in your business comes from prospecting to create leads that lead to sales, I want to tell you about Sales Up Coach, a cloud-based system created for the next generation of sales professional. There's a big difference between being busy and being effective. And Sales Up Coach helps salespeople who rely on prospecting uncover which of their activities produce the greatest results. Over time, Sales Up Coach's machine learning hones salespeople's schedule to focus only on activities that generate the most bang for the buck. Your sales team interacts with Sales Up Coach on their smartphone, and sales managers can instantly generate reports to see who is on goal and who may need additional support. Go online and take a look at this new and very powerful sales tool. Go to salesupcoach.com/Cam Marston. Watch your sales team's productivity change.
Think about your home. What do you see? Do you just see two stories or the stories of your toddler's first steps? Now think about your car. Do you see an odometer reading or your kids reading in the back seat? Other insurance companies just see a house. They just see a car. But a State Farm agent sees what your home and your car really mean to you. So why not give them the protection they deserve?
You can reach me, State Farm agent Allison Horner, at AllisonHorner.com.
You need some college in your life. Get trained to repair and maintain aircrafts at Coastal Alabama Community College's Aviation Center in Mobile and Fairhope. Get your career off the ground and sign up for classes today. Learn more at coastalalabama.edu, Alabama's lowest tuition.
This program is also brought to you by my company, Generational Insights. We've been in the seminar business for 20 years, working with clients ranging from Fortune 500 executives to locally owned mom and pops, helping them improve their sales, their management, their recruiting, and their retention. We give knowledge first and then build tools based on that knowledge that make people more successful at their jobs. And soon, we'll add customer service training. Check us out at cammarston.com. Chef Chris Rainosek opened the Noble South in May of 2014 as a true farm-to-table dining experience in downtown Mobile. He is a graduate of the Culinary School of the Rockies in Boulder, Colorado, married to Leslie with 2 children, Warren, 8 years old, Lily Helen, 4 years old. Chris, I'm glad to see that you continue the Southern tradition, much like okra, of giving 2 names to your daughter. That's very strong, very strong. So tell me about the restaurant business. Now, I was I waited tables. I went to Tulane. I waited tables throughout college to make ends meet. And my experience was many of these people in the back, behind the line, the chefs, were big, strong, dominant personalities. And managing these people and getting them to work cohesively together was a really big challenge for the managers of the restaurant. Not only that, you had some temperamental waiters, and I'm raising my hand here, who often clashed with them. It's a giant microcosm of big personalities. Tell me what it's like to manage all these people.
Well, it's, no situation is easy to manage people. And I think, when you have a staff and you're, in charge of that staff, you have to juggle personalities, and that's just the way it is. And it's hard, and it changes day to day. And the way in which you have to treat people, changes day to day, and the situation changes day to day. And especially in a restaurant situation where there's, hundreds of things happening all around you, and customers are always a great variable and how they're going to act and react. It changes every day, and you can never know what you're going to be looking at. But that being said, managing people in restaurants, and what we've found is that you have to provide people a place that they can, feel comfortable to be themselves, because we want to foster creativity. So you can't stifle that, and you can't be over micromanaging, and you want people to kind of be able to breathe and be creative and look at their vision within what you want them to do. And in addition to that, we think we've just created a place that, is welcoming to everybody. And I think it has to start with the top. So myself, my 2, main managers, one in the front of house and one in the back of the house, we have to kind of watch the way we act, and we react to certain situations, and really hope that trickles down and influences the staff, that, that kind of behavior is not okay, or certainly the great, kind of traditional, stereotype of the big yelling chef and screaming at everybody and throwing things. It's not how I act. And that's kind of have that trickle down to everybody else. So we can have we're a small place. There's just no room for it. And so we hope that kind of permeates the rest of the staff, and that everybody can kind of, get along and work together in a little more productive environment, not live in fear of what the reaction is going to be.
I'm curious, do you consider your restaurant a cause-oriented restaurant? The cause being celebrating local and regional foods.
Absolutely. I mean, that's everything to us. We want to celebrate traditions. And when you say Southern food, I think people have preconceived notions of what that should be. And that's something we've heard online about, and one of the complaints and write-ups that we've heard, multiple times, like, well, they come in to eat, and specifically dinner, probably more so than lunch, but they come in to eat, and they're like, well, that's not Southern food. I don't know why it said it was a Southern restaurant. And we take the stance that Southern food is food made with Southern ingredients.
Yeah.
And not so much, just the traditional things that your grandmother made. But if we take ingredients that were grown here, grown in the South, grown, regionally or locally, and we twist them together, however that may come out, even if it looks like a different cuisine, that's still Southern food, because it used these Southern ingredients that were grown here. So that might be a little more liberal way of looking at it, but we absolutely stand for that. We stand for Southern ingredients. We stand for our local farmers and purveyors, and try and highlight them and focus them. And we're just kind of the conduit that it works through, hopefully.
Do you like opening restaurants or running restaurants? And what's the end game for you with the Noble South?
Well, I like both. I've only, I guess, done the true, in my prior life, I've been around some restaurant openings, but this is the only time I've done it myself, or done it where it was so much on me, I guess, not totally by myself, but so much on me. And, the quote I once heard about opening restaurants was you're scared to death, but then it's like a roller coaster because you're scared to death and then you can't wait to do it again. And I think that's absolutely true, because you get done and then it can be so gratifying, and especially because we've been lucky where it's gone really well over the last 5 years, that yes, you can't wait to do it again. And I have more ideas I'd eventually like to share with the world. There's lots of things we want to do, but so many factors have to go into it, finding the right space, knowing that we can kind of be able to staff it, really having a concept that we're passionate about. So if we can get all those things aligned, then we'd absolutely like to do something in the future. And as far as Noble South in and of itself, we just want to keep growing. We're always on the lookout for new purveyors, new ingredients, and to really keep bringing those to the forefront. I think after 5 years, to a certain extent, we are who we are. We're planning on, sometime over the next couple months, maybe a year, to do some renovations, kind of dress up the building a little bit and bring that into its second wave. But other than that, we're just going to keep looking forward and trying to be the best that we can.
How is creativity? You mentioned the need for creativity. In fact, you try to set a tone as a leader that allows people to be creative in the restaurant. But it would seem to me that once you get the menu set and you've got some predictable good items on there, you need to step aside from creativity. In other words, we've got a process here. We've got a routine. I remember a story about, I think it's Roy Kroc with McDonald's. He would walk up to every graduate from Hamburger University up in Oak Brook, shake their hand and say, "Don't mess with this. It's perfect. Just follow the recipe, do what we tell you to do. You're going to make a lot of money." He essentially said, don't be creative. We do the creative. We figured this out. How creative can you be before you start running off your loyal customers?
Well, I think we were lucky from the start in that we put it out there pretty clearly that, look, this is what we do, and we change things and we rotate through things. You might have your favorite thing you've ever eaten might have been on a menu when you came in a couple of months ago, and it's not going to be there this time. And I think once we, kind of laid that out clearly and our customers began to understand the concept of what we do and why we do it, that made it easier on us. From a management perspective, we do have some things that have been on the menu for a long time, and they kind of stay around, and we'll rotate through them every once in a while, but it just doesn't. And we do have consistency, and we want consistency in those things, but we feel like we can have consistency within the creativity. And what I mean by that is that we change things and we'll rotate them through, but we have to be consistent as far as the way in which we taste. Like, we like to train people to taste things more so than just to follow a recipe. Mm-hmm. Because as we rotate, being a seasonal restaurant, tomatoes at the beginning of the season don't taste the same as tomatoes at the end of the season. They're going to be juicier. They might be a little sweeter. It might be a little less acidic. And so how do you make a recipe that's going to taste different if you make it with this, same ingredient different times through the season? So it might be, hey, at the end of the season, we might need to add a couple drops of vinegar in this recipe. Mm-hmm. And you only get that through tasting and trying to train people's palates more so than just hammering them home with a recipe.
Yeah.
Now, for something like McDonald's, that obviously works well, and they've done that. But we've always done things and almost pride ourselves on doing things a little backwards, a little bit different, because it works for us. And we've remained committed to the style of restaurant that we are. And so when you're coming in, you're just going to understand that it's going to be a little bit different. And our customers have really started to kind of go with that flow, and they always look forward more so to having the same thing that they've had lots of times to seeing what's new on the menu. And we're very appreciative of that.
Well, you obviously, you've thought this through. It's clear. A statistic that I remember hearing, and I don't know the source of it, I'm curious if it's accurate in your point of view or not, but 3 out of 5 restaurants fail. Any validity to that?
That's what I've always heard without tracking it. And, we certainly see it because a lot of people come and go.
They sure do. What is it about those 3 that fail? What are the characteristics of the 3 that fail, and what are the characteristics of the 2 that make it?
I think the main thing, that why people fail is I think a lot of times they don't understand the business side. And we can talk about the creativity all day long, and that's great. But you hear a lot of people who, have no restaurant experience. They just always liked restaurants and they want to try it out and things like that. Or, well, I make this really great, spaghetti and I want to go open an Italian place. And that's great. If you can, do it and make it work, that's fine. But I don't think people understand how hard it is and the attention to detail, because the margins are so small. And from the business perspective, how tight you have to be on everything, from your labor to your food cost, to what your liquor cost, to what you're spending every day, to what you can pay your staff. I mean, the margins are so tight. It takes an everyday, all day commitment to watching those things to really make it work, which I don't think, because you're never going to have, to sell real estate, you can make a couple big deals a year and maybe be fine. You're going to get those big chunks of money and things like that. But here it is every day trying to carve out nickels and dimes, save dollars, kind of trying how to make the most of every product that you bring in the house. And I don't think people are prepared for that unless they've really seen it and lived it for a little while.
Do you compare sales day to day? In other words, the same day last year, you're looking at sales of that day. Do you compare sales month to month? How do you compare over time how you're doing?
Our most general one, I'll look just to see what we did the previous week, like the previous year, the previous day, and things like that. But in general, for most of our reporting, we'll do it monthly to try and see how we've grown. And then, certainly years, but monthly gives us a better read, on what we're doing, because Mobile, things like the weather, or, there's events coming into town or concerts. We do a lot of business with the Sanger Theater and things like that.
Yeah.
So conventions coming into town, those changed a little bit. So we feel like a month gives us the best, kind of overall picture, where it's not too broad, but also not too narrow either.
I was on the phone interviewing Chris Fuchs, who's with Bud Bush Distributing here in Mobile, and I was surprised to hear the significance of the weather regarding beer sales. A rainy summer hits him hard. Do you see weather patterns impacting your business as well?
It does, for sure. And, rain in Mobile, rain is always going to be an issue. It's going to be there all the time. We found it affects lunch more than dinner. So much typically if people have plans for dinner, unless it's really bad, then they'll still go out to dinner. But lunch, we do a lot of walking traffic for lunch. So that obviously goes away.
Yeah.
And events, they do the big art walks downtown that are always good for business and things like that, rain and cancel.
Yeah.
But on the whole, I think if people are going to go out to dinner, unless it's something severe, then typically they'll come out to dinner.
What do you think about Yelp? What do you think about TripAdvisor? What do you think about these reviews? Do you look at them online to see what people are saying?
I do, but I try not, and I don't, like in my younger days, look as much as I did or try, and they don't affect me the way they used to. And we're very lucky that they're overwhelmingly positive for the Noble South. So that's always good. And I think there can be positives to take out of them. And I think people who go on there and they write genuinely about their experience, then, there can be things both good and bad that you can learn as an operator, where you might need to improve or hear things that you're doing right. And that's good. I think that there's problems with the system a little bit, because we've had instances where there's, we had a bad review pop up and it wasn't even about our restaurant, and you have to go through the process. And to Yelp's credit, they take them away. But, I don't know how long it's been sitting there and how many people read it and thought it was about us and things like that. And then there's certainly, things that people just seem to kind of get wrong in what they're saying. But I think it's a product of the world we live in. And I think that's available, anywhere on social medias or in those avenues. And so you just kind of have to get around. You can't be a slave to them and just kind of operate your business always looking at those. But I think it's good to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
And I think it's good to, try and learn a little bit. And, we try and, learn a little bit, of what we did wrong, even in the good stuff. And then we try and, look for the good, even when something might seem like it went bad. So just try and keep an even head about it. I think is the best way to go for us anyway.
Let's assume it's midnight. You've just left the restaurant. You're in need of something at home because you haven't had dinner. So you walk into your own house with the own ingredients, and maybe you've brought something from the restaurant because you know you're hungry and you're going to cook something for yourself when you get home. What is the comfort food late at night? Last question. Comfort food late at night that's going to put you to bed.
Well, I'll start by saying I try not to eat when I get home anymore, or I try and eat very little. So I try and eat like an apple or just something to kind of tide me over a little bit. before I go to sleep, because I've realized that that'll put on the belly pretty quickly if you eat every night when you get home and go straight to bed. That being said, when I do eat, or when I certainly did in my past a lot more, I crave two things. One, I crave spicy, because you've been tasting food all day and you get kind of palate fatigue. And so you need something to kind of cut through that you can really taste. So whatever it is, 99% of the time it's getting hot sauce on it.
Yeah.
So if you come home, and I crave that, and I crave things that are crunchy. So like crunchy vegetables, maybe a salad or a sandwich with some crunchy lettuce on it or things like that. So a lot of times it'll be taking leftovers. My wife has to cook for the kids a lot. So be like, oh, there's a little bit of rice left. Okay, I'll throw a little bit of rice in here. Oh, there's a little bit of chicken left. Put some chicken on there. Some crunchy vegetables. Heat it up. Cover it in hot sauce. And then, sit and have a glass of wine and eat that.
Sounds good. Chef Chris Rainosek runs the Noble South here in Mobile. Chris, thank you so much for your time. This has been really, really interesting. I appreciate it.
I'm so happy to be here, Cam. I really appreciate you having me. And thanks anytime. I'd love to do it again.
We'll be right back with final comments. You're listening to What's Working. This program is also brought to you by my company, Generational Insights. We've been in the seminar business for 20 years, working with clients ranging from Fortune 500 executives to locally owned mom and pops, helping them improve their sales, their management, their recruiting, and their retention. We give knowledge first and then build tools based on that knowledge that make people more successful at their jobs. And soon, we'll add customer service training. Check us out at cammarston.com.
Life insurance is one of those subjects that make people want to change the subject rather than admit they probably don't have enough. I'm State Farm agent Allison Horner, and that's why I focus on how the benefits of life insurance actually live on, by asking people to think in terms of life without having to sell the house insurance, or life without having to give up college insurance. Find out how the benefits of life insurance can live on for your family. Call me, State Farm agent Allison Horner, and get to a better state with State Farm.
Coastal Alabama Community College is 3 amazing colleges combined into one incredible institution. And that means we're all together. For more sports, 15 more locations, more friends, more one-on-one time with instructors, way more activities, more courses, a lot more courses, and more success for all of us. Pretty much more of everything. Coastal Alabama Community College is where everyone is. All together! Coastal Alabama Community College. Register today.
We're back. I want to thank Chef Chris for his time on the phone today. My experience is those food costs, and I'm not in the restaurant business, but my experience is the food costs, those chefs that understand food costs and monitor it to the degree that we heard from Chef Chris are the things that distinguish restaurants that succeed versus those that fail. Their food can be delicious and a line of people out the door, but if they can't manage the food costs, they tend to go under. People are disappointed, but those things are the infinitesimal small amounts that they have to judge and watch on food costs seems to be the difference. Get involved. You want to leave a message for Chris or us to follow up with him? Here are the ways. 251-260-8100. Phone/text line. That is not a monitored line. Leave us a message and we'll call you back or call you back to clarify or put your comments on the air. Again, 251-260-8100. My email, cam@cammarston.com. You can find these shows on my website, cammarston.com. The podcast link is across the top of the page. Click on that and you can see that you can listen to it on Spotify and iTunes and everywhere else, and send it to people that you think should hear it. Perhaps people coming into town that you want to take to the Noble South. I want to thank Kristen Ogden for her help as always in organizing these interviews, and John Thompson for his help editing. We'll have another show next week. Have a good week, everybody.